Hello and welcome to ThePrint. This is Akanksha Mishra and you're watching Scientifix, where I will be taking you through this week's top science news from across the globe. Our first story today is titled The Bright Side of Life, Optimism and Risk of Dementia. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Scientists from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health asked the question if optimism can lead to a lower risk of dementia in older adults, and the results were striking. The scientists used data from the US Health and Retirement Study and followed 9,071 cognitively healthy individuals for up to 14 years. The study defines optimism as a general tendency to expect positive outcomes in the future, and they measured it using the Life Orientation Test Revised. It's basically a validated scale that assesses a person's agreement with statements that reflect positive and negative expectations about life. The study tracked dementia onset across multiple survey waves using a standardized algorithm, and it found that higher optimism was associated with a significantly reduced risk of developing dementia, even after accounting for age, education, depression, and major health conditions. In fact, a one standard deviation increase in optimism was linked to a 15% lower risk of developing dementia. Overall, the findings suggest that optimism may be an important psychosocial factor that supports healthy aging. Our next study is about a long held belief of how plants obtain nutrients to grow and survive. And no, the answer is not just through their roots. A study published in the New Phytologist journal found that atmospheric dust is also an important source of nutrition for plants. Researchers conducted a Mediterranean field experiment simulating dust events and found that when dust settles on leaves, it dissolves in the mildly acidic organic acid rich leaf surface, and it releases nutrients such as iron and phosphorus. The leaves then directly absorb these nutrients, increasing both macro and micronutrient concentrations in the plants. The study found that during active dust events, daily nutrient inputs via leaves can match or even exceed those from soils. The findings highlight an overlooked nutrient pathway and suggest that plant canopies actively capture and process atmospheric particles, with implications for both the ecosystem and for climate models. Next up is a perfect blend of history and science. Researchers in Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology wanted to study the risks posed by solar proton events, SPEs, which are essentially solar storms of high energy particles which can pose a risk, especially for astronauts that get exposed to it because they are outside the Earth's magnetic field. Now, the Japanese scientists wanted to study historical SPEs and the frequency with which they occurred, but they didn't know where to begin or how to do it. They decided to look at their own country's history. They began with medieval records, including a diary of an influential Japanese courtier and poet who witnessed red lights in the northern sky over Kyoto in February 1204 CE. These unusual red lights were likely auroras linked to solar activity. This helped scientists narrow down when to look. The team then analyzed tree rings from old berry trees in Japan. These rings contain carbon-14, which increases when solar radiation hits the atmosphere. By detecting small spikes in carbon-14 in certain years, they identified a sub-extreme solar event between 1200 and 1201 CE, almost 800 years ago. This study helps close gaps in the historical record of solar activity, thereby improving our understanding of unpredictable and hazardous events like solar flares. Finally, a new clinical trial by the University of Texas showed that an advanced brain stimulation technique can significantly improve a treatment for combat-related PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Researchers tested a specialized form of transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, which is called navigated TMS, which uses MRI and robotic guidance to precisely target brain regions. TMS is essentially a form of therapy where an electromagnetic coil is on your head and it sends short magnetic pulses into certain sections of your brain, which helps with mood and behavioral disorders. The trial involved active duty military personnel and veterans, most with severe PTSD, undergoing intensive psychotherapy. The participants were split into two groups. One received real TMS alongside therapy, while the other received a sham version. After 1 month, 85% of those given navigated TMS showed major symptom improvement compared to under 60% in the control group. Benefits also lasted longer, with 73% maintaining improvements after 3 months. This could be a new outlet for PTSD treatment. That's all we have for you today. Thank you for tuning into The Print.